it's been a long time coming. I actually considered doing this all or nothing a year ago, but life gets in the way, and so it took a while, but it's finally here. It was originally planned for this Boondock Saints All or Nothing to be Corey and Tony from the Cracked Skull podcast, but Corey had to work, and so after the open rolls, Tony will be here and we will talk all about the Boondock Saints and the Boondock Saints 2 All Saints Day.
Well, it is one of the most Irish things ever.
Well, the idea that the first film happens, oh, it's St. Paddy's Day, everybody's Irish tonight.
Funny joke in that movie.
Well, and the idea that normally when Corey's here, he brings
something.
Yeah, exactly. Any type of beverage to share and liven up the conversation. And so when you walked in this time, I was like, well, I mean, I ain't got a lot to offer. And so, yeah, I just thought it was interesting because you brought water and I didn't have, or don't really have much in the way of alcohol to offer.
Oh, no, it's just the most Irish thing ever is not to drink on St. Paddy's, and it's...
which is the opposite of what people choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, I just thought that was amusing because of the topic.
Yeah.
And, my goodness, these brothers, in the first film, I just thought they were so, enjoyable, I guess is the easiest way to put it. Like, they're so stoic, but certain. And
conviction, I think, is the best way to describe
it. That is a great word, is conviction. I like that. Yeah, and also I find it interesting their relationship with Rocco, because clearly he's intertwined with
both movies.
I was just gonna say bad guys, right? He's intertwined with bad people, but they see the good in him. And so I like that about them, is how they can see beyond what he does.
Well, I think it was interesting because, punish the bad men.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, Rocco technically is part of the bad men.
Exactly.
But I think they realize that deep down that, he's not a bad man.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Almost like a victim of circumstance.
For sure. Yeah, like I said, they can see beyond what what his occupation is. And so, I just thought that was very interesting as far as the characterizations of the McManus brothers.
Yes.
Because, and also, I mean, it goes into Paul Smecker as well, because he also can see the different perspectives of, like, literally when they first say, how did he know that it was self-defense? I thought that was so funny because he can see beyond, oh, yeah, these guys are dead, but, it wasn't like that they...
That was self-defense.
Exactly, yeah, no, I like that these characters have the ability to go beyond the surface and be like, okay, yes, this happened, but there's more to it.
Yeah.
And, it's just very smart. And it's a big contrast between all the not even beat cops, really, the beat cops and the detectives are kind of equally treated less than the FBI and the vigilantes.
Yeah.
I mean, the detectives are a step above the beat cops for sure. But, because, like, even the beat cop, the guy in the uniform, can't think to roll over a body to find a casing.
Yeah. And I have to give credit to the director, Troy Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
It's his first script he ever did. And I think it's a well-rounded script.
Oh, 100%.
I don't like if I wanted to nitpick anything, I would have to, really look at it. And I think most of the nitpicking would be on some of the shots, how it could have been a little bit different.
Sure.
Some of the dialogue feels a little forced, but you're gonna have that in everything.
Absolutely. I've made the argument before in creative endeavors, and I think this is a fine example thereof. When it's your first project, it is better to be done than perfect, because if you spend all your time dwelling on, let's change this, let's change that, then you could do that for your entire life.
Oh yeah, and you would never get anything made.
Exactly.
Because you're always going to go, wait, I could do this so much better. But then, you're just going to go squirrel mode and just chase your tail, not get anything done.
It kind of reminds me, in some ways, the idea of always wanting to make it perfect. How George Lucas can't leave his product alone until it's sold.
Oh my goodness, he still couldn't even leave it alone. He had a re-release, and it's like, why?
Yeah, and I think it is that idea that you just get stuck in your head, that itch of like, oh, what if I did this, or what if I did that? So, yeah, I think it's better to be done. and again, I think so many of there are a bit of repetitiveness of it all, but it's in presentation, and it makes it feel cohesive. So I'm not even complaining about the repetitive nature of the way the story is told, where you'll have a setup, then you'll get to the finish, but then you see the middle after, because you both see how it is and how the FBI special agent perceives it to have been.
Well, I liked on how a few of the scenes, you have the very beginning. Perfect example is the firefight scene.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you see the beginning of it, and then it cuts to Agent Schmecker.
Yep.
And then you see what happened. I like that.
Yeah.
And that's also...
It's a very fun choice.
In the penthouse scene. Wow. I speak well English today. It's... I think that way of doing it was kind of novel, and I appreciated it.
Yes. Yeah, it almost seemed, when watching the second film, that they were trying to recapture the lightning in a bottle, I felt like, with the repeating of that. And I don't know, each time it happened, it just felt like, I know why you're doing this, but I just thought if they'd have come at it from a different direction. Like when we did the flashbacks for the old, 1950s story, I was happier with that, just because it's different,
Yeah, that was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that in the second movie.
Yes.
Now, I kind of have a love-hate with the second movie.
For sure.
I think some parts in it, I'm kind of like, really?
Yeah, I thought Romeo was... Again, I won't say this as it's impossible, but it's just so surprising how quickly he was embraced.
Mm-hmm.
Because it felt in the first movie that Rocco was a known commodity. We've been friends forever, so it was easy. Yeah. But here with Romeo, they took him in so quickly with so little given.
It felt almost forced.
Mm-hmm. Well, like we need that third piece of the puzzle.
As a character, I wasn't a fan of Romeo.
I agree. He just wasn't Rocco to me.
Well, like, Rocco can only be Rocco.
Exactly. Literally, that's the man.
Like, what color was it?
Oh my goodness. So
there were so many one-liners from that first movie compared to the second movie. You're kind of like,
well, it actually makes me worried that I swear every year I hear, oh, we're working on pre-production for Boondock Saints 3, and I'm just like, if we have the similar struggle from 3 to 2 that I personally, and it sounds like maybe you too, had from 2 to 1, I'm like, maybe it's for the best not to do it, because here's an example of something that I feel the same way about, which actually now has 4 movies, which I haven't watched the 4th one, but each time they released a Matrix movie, I thought, that first one was way better. What are we doing, guys? And then we do another one after that. I'm like, we're still not better than the first one, and so that's why I just haven't watched the 4th one. And so I fear that
I've
if they
seen
do,
the 4th one.
okay, is it follow the pattern or is it rise again or what's it going?
It all depends on how well you love the original arc.
Okay.
Because in that movie sequence, there was that arc.
Yeah.
And I think on the 3rd movie, they tied it up perfectly.
Yeah,
Myself personally, I don't think that they needed a 4th one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I didn't think they needed a 2 or 3. I love the first one so much.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, we're good.
But it is what it is.
Oh, for sure.
If you just want to watch it just to say, hey, I've seen all of it.
One day I will. And it's only because the channel exists that will happen. But like I said, I fear that if 3 ever does come to be, because now we're, 20 years? Not quite 20, but a lot of years removed from the second one. And then we're a lot of years removed from the first one. It's like, the further we get away. And that was actually something I didn't like about the second movie, is like, we pulled the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises of, we just poof disappeared for 8 years. It's like,
no.
People with these kinds of strong feelings, whether it be Batman or the McManus brothers, aren't just going to be like, all right, we're going to go hide out and chop some wood.
There's going to be like, okay, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
There has to something had to have happened between this time period.
Yeah.
What happened? Because they're just not going to sit.
Exactly.
And not do anything.
I agree. I think that was one of the biggest shortcomings. Now, granted, you have to acknowledge the gap just because they visually aren't the same people. Like, the age has occurred, so you have to...
You do have the age, and then, sadly, Sean Patrick Flannery had that motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's not going to look the same.
Of course.
And, while the aging has happened, and it kind of gives like a, hey, 8 years later, they're older, how are we going to fill in that gap? Well, we're just going to gloss over it.
Yeah, the glossing over was, I think, my biggest complaint from 1 to 2. Because with the way 1 ended, and I don't mean the courtroom scene, I mean the reporter asking people their perspectives, I think that maybe a better use of the gap would be the idea of figuring out if people are worthy to join the cause or not. Because Rocco already said you could do this in every major city.
Oh, yeah.
Early on or when he first found out, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I think that could have easily been an explanation as to why we're not in Boston, because we're maybe not quite recruiting, but definitely seeing who's got the right, as they put it, constitution to go as long as it needs, which is actually something that was said at the end of the first one. And instead we open up with nobody having any constitution whatsoever, I guess.
And sheep. And yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I feel like the first movie was, it was great. 5 out of 5 stars. It's so... And part of it's due to when I first watched it and how it came into my knowledge. So in 1999, when the movie was made, I didn't know that it existed.
Well, you also have to have a little backstory with that, because when the movie was coming out, Columbine just happened.
Oh, there you go.
And there is a huge push, hey, no weapons,
For sure.
we don't want that on
Makes perfect sense.
movies and stuff like that.
I get that, but what I was going to say is when I was introduced to it was when I first met my my new roommate in the barracks at Wheeler Army Airfield. He was watching this movie, and it just engrossed me. I was like, what is this thing? It is super cool.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't just him, and then it didn't just become me, but it was everybody's go-to, just, we're drinking, we're smoking, we're having a good time.
Throw it on.
Yeah, exactly, throw it on, because it was so, like you said, quotable, exciting, and so, like I said, in 1999, now I understand why I didn't know it existed, but in 1999 I didn't know it existed, but in 2005, I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing since...
I think it may have been 2005, 2006 when I first saw it. And one of our co-hosts on the show, Alan, which I don't know if you've met.
I met him once before.
You know, we were over at a buddy's house, and, you know, we had been drinking, having a blast and everything, and, you know, the movie was on, and I was just like, what's this? I've never seen it. And everything stopped, and we went, nope, we're going to restart the movie, we're going to watch it from the beginning. And I'm so glad that happened.
Of course, because here's one thing I'll say, is it's such a breeze to get through the first film. Like, everything is just fast-paced, intriguing, fun. Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Coming soon from Gamble Comics, BC Brutes.
It's fast-paced in that this is amazing. I want to see where it goes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not fast-paced as in, oh, we're going to rush this.
Oh, exactly, yeah. It's not rushed, but what I mean is, there's never a dull moment where, because even when things are contemplative, they're done in such a way as to keep it compelling. Like when
I'm trying to think if there was a dull moment.
Oh yeah, I don't think there is one in the first movie, because like I said, even when Agent Smecker puts in earbuds and listens to classical music, you could be like, oh, this is confusing, but then he gets all gestury, and you can see in his eyes that he's figuring out what's happening, or putting the pieces together, I mean. And like I said, something that could seem fairly benign, like I said, a dude thinking, is presented in such a way that it's not benign at all. It's like very engaging.
Yeah, and you can actually see him going, all right, I'm thinking about this. Huh, over there, that's interesting. Well, what's going on here? Hey, what's that? That doesn't look right.
I love when he pop quizzes people. He's like, how many dead bodies did they get it wrong? And he then punish them by having them then go get him, coffee or a bag or whatever. He just... Willem Dafoe is just one of those gems that every time I see this guy pop up, I'm like, you're fun to see.
Well, I remember, when it finally blew up, you know, the Boondock Saints finally blew up, there were so many people like, wait, Willem Dafoe's in drag? And you have to watch the entire movie to understand why.
Of course, yeah.
And, one of my favorite scenes has to be having the pennies on the eyes.
Oh, yeah. Symbology.
The symbolism.
Yes.
What is the symbolism?
I think that's the word you're looking for. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, no, it's, like I said, the first film to me is great. And so... The second one I feel like is fine. It's a 3 out of 5. Like, I can put it on and it's fine. Like, I'm not offended, but I'm also not as
engaged.
I mostly feel sad for the time that it took to get here, the way things are, but I still appreciate many things, like the closing where they're happy with their destination.
They looked thrilled. They were like, oh, we're going to have so much fun.
Yeah, which I think that's a very simple way of presenting, if there ever is a third, is just show us what happens in this here location.
That would be entertaining.
Well, and here's the other thing. You could easily give us I can't remember the character's name off the top of my head, but a Tim Robbins type character from Shawshank Redemption, because since they love the trope of having a third man, right? So if they find somebody and they're like, wait a second, you are the one among all of these people that
shouldn't be here.
I think we've got a role for you,
and it's like, hey, You're our new buddy.
Exactly. So that I think that could work, and especially if you make like a tight 90 minutes, then it's just taking out the worst of the worst.
I mean,
And you could also have like certain guards thinking they're standing up for what's right by keeping them away, and then other ones be like, yeah, exactly, turn a blind eye type
it's
thing.
like, hey, something's gonna happen. I'm gonna go get a coffee.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how what Agent Schmecker did.
Exactly.
And for the life of me, I can't remember his replacement in the second
Okay,
film.
it's
her name.
Bloom is her last name.
I can't.
But she says, "Call me." It's not Uma because that's Uma Thurman. Like it's not Ursula. That's a witch from the Under the Sea. But it's something of that nature. It's like
and it's
Eunice.
Like,
Eunice Bloom.
Eunice. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that took me longer than I expected. But yeah, she being basically his understudy is the way it felt like to me. She was like, she's like, oh, I come from the academy of his brain, and it's just like because the way that she was able to say, oh yeah, it wasn't the McManus brothers, or it was when she's going over the evidence of multiple cases, and yeah, no, but she also brings a different element to working with the detectives because obviously none of them wanted to.
They're like, we're not saying anything, and she was just like, you're being stupid.
Oh my goodness. So do you agree? I feel like it's obvious that you agree that the first one was stronger than the second.
Yes.
So the rule of all or nothing, not that it's real, but the rule of all or nothing is if both movies don't get 3 or above, then nothing lives.
Yeah.
Which is the primary reason why I gave Boondock Saints 2 a 3. It's just that I think the first one's so strong that no matter how bad this one is, it has to get a 3 to keep the first one around. But it's funny because the first All or Nothing we did on the channel was for Independence Day. And the second movie is so bad that we killed off the first one.
Yeah,
which was such a hard thing because I really like Independence Day, the first film. Second film, don't ever watch it. Yeah, not worth it.
In the grand scheme of things, just looking at the second film standalone, is it entertaining? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's got enough redeeming qualities that I can definitely say it's entertaining.
Can I put it on, be entertained? 100%. Am I going to remember everything from it? No.
Clearly not, since you forgot her name.
I
even struggled to.
It doesn't hold a candle to the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're trying to be just looking solely in the lens of the second one.
Right.
I would give it 3 to 3.5.
Okay, there you go. So
and
that's great. That means the first one gets to live.
And the only reason for that is it can draw you in enough to keep your attention to see the entire movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it is worth it to get to the end.
Yeah.
The ending, like we already talked about, is memorable and certainly worth the go, and actually sets up nicely for something they probably should have made back in 2011?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, at least.
Yes.
But there's so much, and how they set up to where even if it's not the McManus brothers, because I think it was the second to last scene, down on the beach pier.
Yeah, those are the two words that were volleying in my head.
I can't remember if it was the beach or if he was on the pier, down by the water.
Yeah, the waterfront.
He was at the waterfront. But, his monologue.
Yep. I'm with
you. And saying, sometimes, you have to let evil fight evil. For the greater good. And I'm like, that is a perfect way to bring in a third movie, even without having the same actors.
That's true. Well, and I was just thinking about it with the pitch that I made for Shawshank Redemption type story in 3. What if instead, so because it's been so long, put that aside. So imagine, if you will, that the McManus brothers don't really show up until the third act of Boondocks Saints 3, and here's why. So you can have them rolled out of the location they're in, much like how El Duce was,
Okay.
because A, they're older, B, people have already taken up the mantle conceptually outside, and so
Okay.
now they're brought out because they already cleaned up the inside, right? So much so that it's like, hey, things are pretty orderly right here. We're just going to put you off to the side, if you will. And then when somebody makes the call, let's just say Smetker for the argument, somebody makes the call, they get released to go clean up somebody's mess on the outside.
I can see that happening.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue.
And it's
with
a
that.
way to limit their
Not necessarily screen time, but
need for going over the top in the action field.
Yeah.
So they're more like a looming boogeyman, much like El Duce was.
yeah,
And then when he showed up, it was important.
yeah, and the twist on that.
Well, my issue with the twist is it should have happened on the porch scene instead of
Yeah.
the next time. Because if it's revealed, because he only knows he's going after Rocco.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he sees Rocco's with the boys, then that should have changed things.
Yep.
Also, if the scene was shot at night, I think I could have let it go. But because it was shown in light, that was one of my struggles. But again, that's one of the nitpicks where it's like, I let it go because I'm entertained by it.
Like,
And the line where Greenlee says, "What if it was one guy with six guns?" And Paul Smetker's like, "Get out of here! You're ridiculous." He doesn't say that, but like he gives him that like visual of like, "When have you been right this whole time? Never. So you're not right this time." And then when we see and we know that it was one guy with six guns instead of six guys with guns.
one gun
each. Yeah. So like I said, the payoff is worth the confusion of the scene. Although, like I said, if it was just shot at night instead of during the day, I think any part of the could have been dismissed.
Yeah.
Easier. But no, I'm with you on that. I've thought that for years, where it's like, wouldn't you know?
Well, the only way that I can kind of sort of maybe gloss over, during the daylight scene is in the director's cut, bonus footage at the end of a DVD if you had bought it.
I do have it, actually.
You can see deleted scene with them talking to their mother.
Yep.
And if either she pulled them away from El Duce or, just wasn't in their life at all, if that little bit of backstory was in there, then I could go, okay, cool, I have no issue with that because he wouldn't even know.
Correct, yeah. I mean, I think in my mind, now this is me adding information on my own, but in my mind, they know they have they had a father because obviously they exist.
You have to have
it's a part of the equation.
1 + 1 = 2.
And so obviously they know they had a father. They know that he wasn't around, but also they had to have known him for some portion of their lives to know his actual prayer, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking that he left when they're like 8,
Real young.
young enough that you remember, but not old enough to where they look like they do as an adult. Yeah. So that's kind of my justification for it.
Okay.
In the grand scheme, but
and I think the prayer scene with that, because he's walking in there to take care of business.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, oh,
finish.
Okay, I will finish it for you.
Yeah, I like that.
And they're just like,
Yeah, it's a big revelation, and I like when all the detectives and Smetker help get them in the court, because seeing them throw the things, although I could totally see this is why that the whole Columbine thing is looked down upon, or what, not looked down, but they're like, let's not promote this thing, but like them bypassing the security, the metal detector, all that, and so it made it make sense. So what is your overall score for the first film?
Solid 5.
Oh, perfect. That's what I thought. It felt right. Like, it's just so enjoyable.
That is a movie that I can put on if I'm having a great day and have fun with it. If I'm having an absolutely horrible day, I can put it on, be entertained, and I'm going to feel better at the end because I'm going to be quoting it almost word for word
Yep.
throughout the entire thing.
It was funny. So my wife was like, so she has this, I call it jokingly, a superpower where give it a day or two and she forgets everything she's ever seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Dory
I wish
from
I had that.
Finding Nemo, right? That's a
Yeah.
character. She's Dory. So I put the movie on and I say so many lines back to back. She's like, "Why are we even rewatching this? You already know it." I was like, "Yeah, but it's awesome. Like,
Yeah,
of course I'm gonna say
It's an amazing
like
movie.
like I said, rule of wrist, instead of rule of thumb.
Maybe it should have been rule of the wrist. Can't do much damage with that now, can we?
Exactly. And so there are times when I wish I had that forgetful nature, but it's also good to remember. I like having that satisfactory nature of it coming back to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope you have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, and thank you for talking about the Boondock Saints and the Boondock Saints 2 All Saints Day. Thank you very much.
Oh, not a problem.